Well, hey, good evening, friends, gardening friends. Welcome back to my little gardening show. Wanted to touch base with you guys tonight. We spent most of the day out at the garden from about, I don't know, um, 11, 12 o'clock on through pretty much the heat of the day till about 5, 6 o'clock. But we got all of the if you do the official mint lighter grow boxes, you wouldn't have that problem, Tom. Anyway, we got all the tomatoes planted. We got all the peppers planted. Um, Everything's watered in. The only thing I got left to do, yeah. So did you get those supersonics planted today, Tom? Or banana peppers? Do you have any left over, or did you plant them all? Oh wow. Hey Frank, what's up, man? We just started the stream here. No, if you have leftover, maybe some leftover banana peppers, I might take a few of those. Um, we got, I don't know, close to 60 tomato plants planted out today, which is crazy. But you know what? This is the first. Oh, that stings, Frank. It was like perfect weather here today, um, in the late 80s. The only thing is it's pretty humid. The air was kind of thick. I mean, I'm outside right now and the air is still thick and it's like 9 o'clock. Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't perfect on the tarmac. Oh, shoot. But this is the first year that I've not had a backache at the end of the day. Um, Usually, most years gardening and stuff, yeah, it's like a dry heat, isn't it? Here it's humid, humid heat. But grateful for it. I was talking to my wife today. We were at the Tractor Supply. We were getting some more ag lime, and I was looking for baling twine, the 170-pound stuff, the stuff that's a little thicker so it doesn't choke the plants when you're stringing them up. Um, we got the lime for, I don't know, $3, $5, 50-pound bag. The twine, no, they don't have the 170-pound, not the kind I was looking for. So I may order that online. It looks like Amazon was selling some. Is actually fulfilled by a third party, but it's like twine in a baling twine, polypropylene twine in a tub. It's like a 210-pound. That's cool. Did you see? I don't know if I posted a pic. I don't think I have yet on YouTube, but all my stuff sprouted too. My Blue Hubbard sprouted as well. I got a whole tray. Actually, we might just walk around to the front of the house so you guys can see that. You guys get a little preview of the backyard. Let's go for a little walk. Hopefully I won't lose Wi-Fi. I shouldn't. I'm gonna be around the house, so. We got the awning up. I did that the other day. It's one thing that's kind of nice out here is having the deck in the evening and kind of hang out. I got some work to do though. That pond is full of sludge. I'm about to get the pitchforks and dig all that out. Yeah. Someday. These plants are going to be for the pots that I can get around doing today. But look at this. That butter crunch lettuce is awesome. There's my romaine. It's all filling out. It's really exploding, but look at these, Frank. Everything sprouted. Even the Tigger melon. That seed is like, I don't know, 6 years old. It all sprouted. Those are the melons you gave me. And then I think these are the blue Hubbards back here, the big ones. So needless to say, I got to get those all separated. If you can see the carpenter bees up there. So anyway, I think tomorrow we're going to spend some time trying to get the yard cleaned up a little bit more. Yeah, I'm hoping it's the little ones, not the Charleston Grays, but we'll see. We got like 4 bunny rabbits in the backyard. We're also watching my sister's dog. So my dad, my sister, her a future brother-in-law, they all went down to Evansville to hang out with family and stuff. Oh, have mercy. We're losing our light. It's getting dark. So anyway, this is the first year that I've not had a backache when we were done planting the garden. And the big reason for that is my dad, for his birthday, he got this Earthworks or Landworks earth auger deal with this like 6-inch bit. It's really long, a couple feet long. Anyway, was able to do all the planting with that, pretty much, like drilled all the holes, and then we set up an assembly line with the kids, and basically I prepped the plants and had a couple runners running kids out. But usually most of as far as a backache, it's running that post hole digger. You know, typically we'd be wore out, you know, digging close to 60 holes, 100 holes with a post hole digger. You know, in years past, it's been 2 of us doing that. And one of the reasons why my brother doesn't visit us on Memorial Day anymore, because he didn't, you know, is not really keen on wanting to work in the garden a whole bunch. But that thing is such a back saver. It only weighs 12 pounds and zips down in the ground real quick and just real easy to handle. We'll also replace my brother-in-law's mailbox. My daughter backed over it the other day, 2 days ago. I get this message from my wife at work how daughter's all crying and stuff because she had backed over it with the van. So we did that yesterday, again using the auger, drilled down, got a post set. That worked out real well. But so yeah, busy day. I got some footage. I don't know how good it is, but I'm going to try to maybe edit it tomorrow and see about getting something posted on the actual planting in the garden. But I've got probably 150 plants left over. Some of them going to be, you know, backup in case the birds get some of them. And then the other thing today, we're going through the potato patch, and the Colorado potato beetle is already there. We squashed probably 10 or 12 of the adults, which usually they're the ones that are hard to find. Usually what you see is the babies, you know, that these big red, almost look like slugs with legs that start growing on the plants, and usually they're later in the season, but they're early this year. So squashed all those real quick, and they were pretty easy to remove because the plants are only about 2-3 inches tall, the sprouts. But I'm gonna hit that patch with some diatomaceous earth probably tomorrow. Do all that. So anywho, so you still on, Frank? I see a 1 up there. Sometimes Tom goes in and out because of his Wi-Fi. Oh, that's cool. So how was church, man? What was the message today? Putting a spout on it. Interesting. You said your wife, and Tom's back on. Your wife broke the AC again? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we watched a documentary. We were kind of going through, and there was a documentary on George Mueller. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. But he lived in the, I guess, the 19th century. And he's famous for starting this orphanage in England. And I guess by the time he passed away, they had like they built a new complex. There were like 5 buildings, and they could house like 2,000 orphans. I think was kind of like his ministry or whatnot. But it seemed like a real fascinating story. He kept a diary, you know, copious notes of stuff that was happening and all this stuff. But kind of the main Oh no. Yeah, you'll have to tell your wife one appliance at a time. Yeah, this George Mueller, I think his last name's Muller. But I guess the defining trait or the big thing that he wanted people to know was he wanted them to know that they could trust God, trust the Lord. And so um, for most of his practice, like his goal was like to depend solely on the Lord for his needs and stuff like that. So he wouldn't communicate or really promote like the orphanage or like his programs or anything like that. And just resolved to pray that the Lord would meet their needs, you know, whenever there was need. And a lot of times, you know, it'd be like they'd run out of provisions, you know, and it's like dinner time. They don't know what they're going to do. And like there'd be a knock at the door and like where someone was compelled, like the day before or whatever, to prepare all this food and then bring it over. Um, he's got all kinds of stories like that. If you Google him, there's all kinds of stuff. But the documentary is on Amazon. I think it was like about 30, 45 minutes long. Wasn't that long. It's pretty good. Um, so anyway, that was kind of what we've been doing here. We turned the AC on, by the way, first time today. We've been trying to keep it off because, you know, once you turn it on, then you're used to it, you know, and you pretty much keep it on the rest of the summer. But my wife went ahead and she turned it on for us. She came out actually for a little bit and helped us in the garden and then came back home, and then we all got home all, you know, kind of hot and sweaty. I brought my 10-foot pop-up this time. That really helped. You know, kept the sun off our backs. Well, cool. I just got your message, Frank. I'm gonna hit the light here, see, because I see it's getting real dark. That's a little better. Now there's kind of a little breeze coming through. That's nice. So what else you guys end up doing today? Were you I know Tom, he was working on an airplane. Was it what you thought the problem was with the spark? That the too much fuel was going in and the spark couldn't handle it in the points and condenser or whatever you're telling me about the other day? Oh, that's awesome. We pitched that idea too, and they may end up doing that. Right now, I think we're set to open back up June 7th. Might be like they call it a soft opening, where we're gonna kind of test the processes and safeguards and stuff. It was only running on one cylinder. That sounds real safe. Oh man. Yeah, this was a plane, right? What kind of plane was it? A Cessna or a... Interesting. You guys can't hear it back here, but I'm hearing all these like whirligigs come off the silver maples back here, and they're starting to coat the roof, which means I'm gonna end up having to clean the gutters. Kind of wondering if it's gonna rain tonight. I think about every night. You guys do anything for Memorial Day tomorrow? You gonna be cooking out or anything, or getting together with anybody? That's crazy. We're doing a birthday party. Oh shoot. That's funny. We're doing a party by a... shoot. Uh-oh, wind is starting to pick up. So everybody's hitting you up now for car repairs? Is that what's going on? And I didn't use any diatomaceous earth today. You can raise your prices, but you need to keep your friends and family close. They continue to give us the friends and family pricing. Yeah, I get the supersonic price. I hope those turn out well. I mean, they looked healthy and all that. Um, I was kind of surprised planting my stuff out today. They look pretty good. I planted the Dallas Wilson Cubans today, and one thing I noticed compared to all the other tomatoes that I put out is that they were the furriest. Like they had those little follicles or hairs. They had more of those than any of the other plants that I put out today. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That's good. We had ours on the rack that I've got by the greenhouse, and they hardened off for the last 2 days. So I'm hoping they'll be okay out in full sun, the rest of the week here. Depending, I need to get them strung up probably tomorrow though, because last time I didn't do that, we got kind of a freak storm that came through and they are running out of popping cans now. What? Seriously? I know when the U.S., I guess back when Obama was president, put a lot of environmental regulations in place, a lot of the U.S. aluminum smelters went out of business. I think there's only like one or two left in the United States. And a lot of but China's got a crazy amount, 18, 20, probably more than that. And apparently it had something to do with the process of handling aluminum and processing it and all that. It takes a ton of water and like environmentally, like more resources than other metals and stuff like that. That could be it. There's a lot of people enjoying. I mean, some people are. Some people are really would definitely be working, but I could see where a lot of the factory workers and stuff like that, depending on the unemployment, are probably making more now than what they were when they were working. Yeah. Yeah. I think Tom is still drinking Diet Dew. You haven't given that up yet, have you? Huh. Yeah, one thing we grew up with, talking about green and fizzy, was you guys ever heard of Ski? SKI? Ski Cola? It's the same. Yeah, it's in the same. Yeah, Ski was awesome. That was like a local brand down in Evansville where I grew up. It was like Ski RC Cola. That was I loved RC. We drank a lot of RC growing up. Big Red was another one. Yeah, Fago started selling cola. I can remember that. And I don't know if you remember this, but they used to sell it in the 3 liter bottles. So I could get like a 3 liter bottle of RC for like 99 cents, something like that. Yeah, what do you think of RC Cola? I mean, it's been years. I hadn't drank that stuff since probably high school. Really? They still have the 3 liters? I may end up having to take the kids over to Dollar Tree because they don't believe me. Yep, RC Cola and moon pies. Okay, knockoff. Yeah, they were kind of knockoffs, but they were good. I liked it. Um, it's too funny, man. Hmm. I mean, now I probably have one Coke a year now, or maybe one or two Mountain Dews. We mostly drink water, iced tea, um, lemonade on occasion, and stuff like that. Moxie. I'm gonna have to Google that. Oh shoot! Speaking of licking windows and stuff, I remember this. I think this was last year. We were at Aldi, and there was a girl that was over on the pallet of sugar, and she was licking every bag of sugar that was there at the front. I'm about to try some of that Moxie. You got me curious, Frank. Yeah, so tomorrow we've got this birthday party for my mother-in-law. Basically, I think she turns 70. But I think we're gonna have a little cookout. My brother-in-law is bringing over some stuff. I think he's smoking. He's got a smoker, and then we're making a few things. I think one of the things we're gonna try making is this stuff called semifreddo. It's like semi-frozen ice cream, and you can put all kinds of stuff in it, like fruit, and there's basically like a base recipe, and then you can, you know, add stuff into it. And speaking of your son, Tom, so how's he doing? I know you mentioned it was a challenge to find him housing and stuff. Um, it sounds like he's been working at the Dollar Tree for a while. Yeah, I saw a comment pop up twice. Well, like the same comment where maybe, like you said, you can't see anything you're posting. That's interesting. So he's a night stalker at Dollar Tree. Is that what he's doing? I see your comments, Frank. We got a couple people at work that go in early like that, 3, 4 a.m., and then they get off around 12 noon. Yeah, I can see the comments. That's interesting that it doesn't let you see them. Oh, one thing that's real cool. So like I've been um, looking at the YouTube analytics or whatever, and I think it's because of the quarantine. But like the watch time, as far as people bopping in and watching the older videos and all that, seems to be going up and whatnot. And I'm at almost 240,000 minutes for a rolling year period. Yeah. Oh, here comes my daughter. Child, come out here. My daughter might be joining us on the chat here. Yeah, I'm chatting with Frank and Tom. Yeah, it is pretty cool. I think once I hit 240,000 minutes in a rolling period, I can monetize again if I want to. Which I may wait and see how things go. I can get a fine. Are you joking? Are you talking about my daughter chatting with us? I have been trying to limit, like, used to I had the kids in a lot of the videos and stuff like that. But since all those rules and stuff came down, I've been kind of leery about featuring them in a whole lot of the videos. That's crazy. Yeah, that minute total is crazy. I mean, I didn't think I'd ever have anything like that happen. Because I think, what was it, 2 years ago when they demonetized. Yeah. I know there's a couple channels they pretty much quit after all that same. There was one I used to watch every once in a while. It was called Fynyth or something, Fynyth. It's this gal, I guess, over in, I want to say, North Dakota, or one of these kind of mountainous regions or whatever. Maybe it was Montana or something. Anyway, she got a tiny house and would make videos and stuff about living out in the middle of nowhere. And it must be you, Frank. You brought them all back. Yeah, there was a guy that demonstrated toys and stuff like that. I think they shut him down. Yeah, that Fynyth lady, she hasn't made a video ever since. She made a video about the FTC, like calling them to verify stuff, and I guess it spooked her. She hasn't made any more videos after that. So what I do is I could have Ruthie participate, but the camera will stay on me. That's what we'll do. Oh shoot. That'd be like the Masked Singer. I think she's got a costume. I could have her wear something.
What? What are you talking about?
Anyway, I don't know if my content's really gotten better over the years. It's probably gotten worse, actually. Like I was saying maybe a video or two ago, it's more like, spontaneous YouTube or lazy YouTube, where we're just chatting and seeing who shows up, and talking about whatever. And there's not really like a theme or a point or a story or any of the attention grabbers, and I don't have like the camera constantly changing angles like every 10-15 seconds, like some of these videos you see where you're watching and then it's like, where it's like they'll jack with the picture to shake you out of the daze, so it tries to get. Maybe we can fake that, like I can just shake my head. Yeah, it keeps you focused on the video, or like where they change scenes to where it's not just the one scene kind of shifting. Yeah, I need 3 more cameras. Actually, what I need is I need somebody like videotaping me all the time.
Who's watching?
Tom and Frank. We're just joking. But it's crazy. People just don't have a much of an attention span nowadays. You know, in one way, and I guess
What? What did they say?
Tom said he could do that for $25 an hour.
What?
Yeah, lazy YouTube. If I had a faster computer, I'd probably do more of the video editing and stuff like that. Because right now, I've just got a 5-core processor or whatever, and the software, it takes about 3 hours, you know, and that's if I do like a real light edit. Which, speaking of which, Frank, I talked to the sound guy at church, and they're using Final Cut Pro to do all the content currently. But we had a meeting the other night where they're wanting to get some newer equipment. They want to get a couple different, I guess, at least one more camera, and then actually set up the studio there at the church to do more live stuff. Yeah, MacBook and iMovie, maybe the next stimulus check. Yeah, Final Cut Pro. We were bad. We didn't watch today. We've been watching the streaming services and stuff like that, but we haven't watched the one that was today yet. We might catch it tomorrow because it's recorded. We can go back and see it. But we ended up getting everything ready to go out and plant. Yeah. All right. How about we get one used MacBook and all the kids could share it? That's what we would. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it's funny, you know, like yesterday we had all these plans and stuff, but it wasn't like everything was set in stone. And my buddy Josh was supposed to come over. He was actually supposed to be with me
Today.
still this weekend. He was going to come over for the whole weekend. We were possibly going to redo my tomato trellis. We were going to plant the garden. It was going to be a really cool time with him. And then what was it? Friday, his grandfather, who's like his dad, basically, 2013 Retina Pro. Interesting. Anyway, his grandfather was in a real bad car accident. Yeah. Shoot. It is easy to get, it's easy to be, it can be easy to get complacent and lazy about things, for sure. Ruthie's shaking her head, yes.
Nod. That's called nodding your head.
Yes, she's nodding her head, yes. So anyway, we're supposed to open, I think, June 7th. They're going to do a soft open. And I guess members only first. They got like close to 200 members, 150, something like that, and then can sign up. And I think of that, the first 25 that would sign up to volunteer would get preference, but they'll seat, I think, 75 in the main sanctuary and 75 in the community center or whatever. So my friend Josh was supposed to come over. His grandfather was in his car wreck, but Saturday he messaged me. He was still on his way. They were actually made it all the way to Indianapolis, and then yeah, it's crazy. We'll just have to get together, Tom. I'll make up the difference.
You should keep telling the story.
Oh, shoot. So anyway, he texted me Saturday morning, makes it to Indianapolis, and his grandmother basically got a hold of him and said, yeah, keep, it's cool going over, but basically his grandfather has a brain bleed, and it's more serious than what they thought and all that. So even though everybody was telling him to come over, he could tell by the fact that they were calling him and letting him know what was going on that he probably just needed to turn around and go back. And so that's what he did. He ended up not coming over. He ended up going back to be with the family, that's cool. I mean, he needed to do that. So anyway, we were just kind of thinking through. And then the other thing too, like the plan was to plant the garden yesterday, not today. And so we kind of regrouped and prayed about everything a little bit. Like, okay, is there something else we're supposed to be doing today?
No.
Well, that's awesome, man.
What?
Their church, they're renting a tent. Yeah, the T-frames project. Well, it looks like we'll probably do that next year because I got all my tomatoes planted now. Though, well, I have to give it some thought. His name's Josh. And his grandfather, his name's Jim. So we started just kind of prayed about, is there something else we're supposed to do? And what ended up happening was we spent most of the afternoon, actually in that evening, with my brother-in-law and the cousins, which was really cool. I think that's what we were supposed to do. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know. I should have gotten those built. Yeah, that was a delay. It was, man. If I could have gotten out there earlier. But anyway, we ended up spending the day with my brother-in-law, and he's going through a divorce right now. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic with all that. They're not divorced yet, but basically it'd be pretty miraculous if they got back together because they're both kind of living in their own house now. They sold the big house that they were in, and he's got a lot of I think bitterness, and is not really willing to go to counseling or try to reconcile at this point. So we've been praying for all of them, but he ended up ate lunch with us. The cousins hung out for a little while, and then they came back over that evening and spent the evening, a couple hours just hanging out. It was it was fun, pretty laid back, and the kids played this cup game where they played this music, and then they were doing this stuff with these cups, like making music and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And then I was kind of jacking around with some cups.
He didn't know how to do it, in other words.
I was like whistling in a cup, and I was like banging cups together. We had a lot of fun. But anyway, I guess the whole point is like that whole idea, like it's fine to make plans and things like that, and we should like be planful and try to, I don't know, redeem the time, but at the same time be open and flexible to, other things like. And sometimes, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but sometimes like you do have a plan, like certain things you're wanting to accomplish or whatever, and then it just everything starts kind of going south. And it's like you can go against that and be real frustrated, or you can just kind of pivot, I guess, and go with it. Yeah. What's that phrase? How do you eat an elephant? Ruthie, how do you eat an elephant?
I don't know.
You guys know how to eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time.
So, okay.
Yeah, one bite at a time. And lots of ketchup.
Ew.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our plan. We're just trying to be prayerful about things. Kind of have stuff planned out, but at the same time be kind of flexible to if there's a change that we can kind of perceive, go with it. I heard in the news recently, like, because of supply chain issues or whatever, like, there's farmers that are actually, like, gassing their pigs and, like,
What does that mean? Are they killing them?
yeah, they're killing the pigs and stuff like that. I know, it's crazy.
No.
Yeah, no, I keep yawning. I don't know what the deal is. I got a good night's sleep last night,
Well, I mean, we were out at the garden in the sun all day.
other than just being out in the, like she said, the garden in the sun all day long. I got a nice little farmer's tan on my back. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the price of meat is pretty insane right now. Cost of food in general is insane. When we look at the grocery bill and stuff like that,
That's why we have a garden. Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. There's a real interesting, I know, Frank, you were mentioning Pentecost, how you guys are getting ready to celebrate that. There's a real interesting study I'll send you. I guess there's been stuff published over the years about it, but they call it the Feast of the Lord, or whatnot. Like there's basically 7 major feasts that Israel celebrates. There's a bunch more that they've kind of added, over the years or whatever, but the 7 major ones are what? What are they, Ruth? Passover, I think, is the first one of the spring, and there's a bunch of them that are all kind of within that
Who's that one that was
period.
just-
The first, those 4 within like the 50 days or whatnot.
What's that Seder?
It's like Passover, unleavened bread.
Is the Seder meal part of anything?
Yeah, it might be.
Is that like part of Passover?
Anyway, there's 4 in the spring, and I guess that 4th one's like Pentecost, which is also like the birth of the church and all that. Or first fruits, and then Pentecost. So Passover, I think it's unleavened bread, first fruits, and Pentecost, and they correspond with basically Christ fulfilled everything to the day, and the detail, the symbolism of those first 4, which were in the spring, and then there's 3 that are in the fall, and the 3 in the fall are the Feast of Trumpets, the Feast of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And trumpets kind of, or Rosh Hashanah is a really interesting one because of all the symbolism, and that feast is usually in September, I think, but it's a 2-day feast. That's what's interesting about it, because it's marked by the sighting of the harvest moon or some moon that they keep watch. They watch for it, and they're saying is because nobody knows the day nor the hour that it's going to appear, because literally they don't know exactly when that will appear. And so it's a 2-day feast for that reason, to cover that span, and they keep watch for it, and when they see it, they blow the shofar, the trumpet or whatnot, and there's just a lot of interesting symbolism with that one in particular. I mean, they're all kind of symbolic. Like the Feast of Atonement has to deal with like judgment, Yom Kippur, which is like for the Jews, like their holiest day of the year. Typically would be when their high priest would go into like the Holy of Holies and offer up atonement for the nation. I guess back, when they had sacrifices and all that. And then the Feast of Tabernacles follows that, and that's where they celebrate, kind of the reconciliation with the Lord and all that. Which, anyway, all that to say, kind of rambling a little bit about these, but it's in like Leviticus, I want to say 25, 23, somewhere in that. There's details about all these, but they were kind of like a dress rehearsal, really, for like pointing to Christ, and what he was going to do in his appearing and all of that, which obviously the Jews kind of missed it the first go around. They didn't really understand that he was coming as a suffering servant, not as a conquering king. And so they had an idea that it was going to be some political leader that was going to deliver them from Roman rule and all that. So we were looking for a king. They didn't see in the scriptures that he's going to have to first suffer and die and all that. But then his second coming, he was going to come as a conquering king. So anyway, going back to the 7 feasts, kind of dress rehearsal for all that. so that the Jews would be thinking about all this, so that when Christ would appear, they would see this. And I guess the Gospel of John kind of highlights a lot of this stuff. You know, some of the things that Jesus said, statements he made, coming up to the Passover feast and all of that. But it's a dress rehearsal for the kind of person and work ministry of Christ. So the first 4 were in the spring, and the last 3 are in the fall. So a lot of people believe there's a movement that the Feast of Trumpets actually represents like the rapture of the church. When that happens, that, you know, be caught up, you know, with him, and then hidden away while tribulation and all, you know, all hell is breaking loose and all of that. So it's pretty fascinating study, really, kind of looking into all that. That's just kind of like a real vague, kind of brief overview of all that, but it's just interesting. The more you study, the more like stuff kind of ties in, and just yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that, and Paul and the epistles talk about how the church is a mystery. Like, you know, yeah, I'll send that to you. But the prophets didn't see like the church age. You know, they saw kind of the peaks, you know, and the Lord's showing them things in the future. They kind of saw the mountain peaks of different things that were going to happen. They didn't understand, I guess, the fact that salvation was going to be granted to Gentiles, or to like non-Jews. Like God was going to include that in his plan. Like they didn't see that, and so the church age is kind of a mystery, and it's kind of this pause in I guess the book of Daniel has got a lot of prophecy concerning all this stuff, but it's kind of a pause in God's plan for the nation of Israel. But from what I understand, Israel's kind of like God's timepiece, so it was kind of like paused, you know, at Pentecost when the church was born, you know, and we had this church age of like 2,000 years. And then a lot of people think that, you know, it's kind of, the timetable is kind of started again when Israel became a nation. I think it was like in 1948, when the United Nations, by like 1 vote or something, you know, after World War II, because all the atrocities that happened to the Jews, you know, and the Holocaust and all of that, kind of felt sorry for them, and so gave them, you know, a slice of Palestine, like, which is basically the promise, you know, a portion of what the greater promised land is supposed to be, that the Lord had kind of promised them. Yeah. He's joking around about the roller coasters, about Kings Island, how he's hoping it doesn't happen before he can go to Kings Island. But anyway, it's really fascinating. So a lot of people believe, you know, because the prophecy talks about, you know, different stuff in the book of Daniel and other books. Talk about the Lord was going to gather them together and make them a nation again, and that happened in 1948. So there's a lot of speculation, biblical scholars who believe that kind of started this timetable again. And then, you know, some people believe that that's kind of the start of things and other things that have happened, where, you know, the generation that sees these things start to take place will see the whole thing kind of unfold, which is kind of an interesting thought. And then you kind of look back through, well, how long is a generation? Like, you know, 40 years, 70, 80, 100 years. You know, what is it? So it's just it's all very interesting, the timing of all this stuff. And so all that to say that prophetically speaking, there isn't really anything left that needs to happen or be in place before the rapture would occur. Um, like it could happen at any time, really, at this point. And that's kind of where it talks about in First Peter. I think it's First Peter that just talks about, the Lord's delay, the fact that He hasn't come again, and all this stuff hasn't kind of taken place, just means salvation for more people. Like it gives people more time to come to know the Lord. It's His patience and long suffering.
By His grace, we have been saved through faith. This is not of ourselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a passage in, I think it's in Peter again. Yeah. Well, a good explanation I heard on all that is, like since the church is the bride of Christ, like Christ doesn't beat up the bride before the marriage. We're betrothed to Him right now, but when we're caught up and raptured, there was another whole study on the Jewish marriage ritual and stuff, and that's a real fascinating study too. That there's a lot of parallels with that, and also like how Christ's relationship to the church and how it's all going to unfold. It's like in the I guess back then, like one of the big things with first of all, the people, they'd be betrothed to one another, and there'd be this kind of interim period. They're essentially, it's almost like they're married. I mean, for legal purposes, they're well into that process. And the son, or the groom would basically go to his father's house to prepare a place for his bride, and would actually build a room onto the father's house, because back then that was just kind of how they lived. And then once all the preparations were made, he and his friends or whatever would go at a time unbeknownst to the bride and call for her, like, and basically he would take her back then, like whisk her away back to his father's house. And then they would basically that would start kind of the marriage ceremony and all that, and the marriage would be consummated. They would enter the bridal chamber and remain there for 7 days. And then at the end of that time, they would appear, present, husband and wife, and there'd be this huge party, like the wedding feast, and people celebrating and stuff. And what's interesting is there's all these parallels with like the pre-tribulation view of the church, that, it's like Jesus said in John 14, I think it was. It's John 14, 15, or 16. And he talks about how, I go to prepare a place for you, right? If I didn't, and he goes on to talk about that. Where I go, you can't go right now, but you will eventually follow. But this whole idea that he's going to prepare a place. And in the fact that, it comes again, or, we're called up to the Lord, we're with Him. Tribulation period takes place over 7-year period, and we're hidden away with Christ. And then at the end of that's the wedding supper of the Lamb, right? And we're with Him and all that. So anyway, I guess getting back to that, like, again, Christ doesn't beat up His church before coming to get her. Yeah. Which, that makes sense, right? I mean, why would it? We're not appointed for wrath.
He doesn't
it doesn't mean we're not going to suffer in this life, or like bad things couldn't happen and this, that, and the other because of sin and things we experience here. But as far as the tribulation period, when all that goes down, we're going to be spared from that, and hidden away with Christ. And then at the end of the 7 years, we will return with him to judge the earth. Like, that's when, all, Armageddon and all that happens. So it's, anyway, there's all kinds of interesting studies on that, kind of parallels, things that kind of point to that. And I know there's room for speculation, like you're alluding to 3 kind of major views on that. That I personally kind of prescribe to the pre-trib view. It just seems to make more sense to me scripturally, based on.
Some people believe we'll go through the tribulation.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Mid-trib.
Like we'll go during it?
Yeah, that halfway in will be taken out. So it's all interesting stuff.
But I mean, worldwide disease, famine, animals dying. That's 3 of them, right? Isn't there 7? No, I'm just kidding.
So anyway, the fact that it lines up with like the Feast of the Lord, that got set up as kind of a dress rehearsal for the person work ministry of Christ, and how the last 3 line up with the the end times and all of that. The Feast of Trumpets being the rapture of the church. The fact that the wedding, whole wedding custom of the Jewish people lines up with it, and there's a lot of verses where Christ is alluding to aspects of that. Are 2 major, 2 things they're just real curious to me. But anywho, it's good stuff. I need to study more.
What is the study of the end times called? I know there's a
eschatology. That's the fancy word for it. That's study of the end times, or I think that's what that means. Eschatology.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think I've heard that before.
And it's not like an essential, like,
No.
if people have different views on that, it's not like they're
because you want to be
condemned and all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's allowance for it. I don't know.
I feel like it's easy to get wrapped up in that and not in what the Lord actually wants us to do,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe He wants us to do that for a time, but for our lives, you might have there's a bigger picture. It's not just.
There is a bigger picture.
It's actually called. What is it called? It's called salvation, and what is it called? It's the process of your spiritual walk. What's it called?
Discipleship, growth. I don't know.
Oh, I forget.
One of the things we're wrestling with, currently the church I'm affiliated with, they've had a lot of growth in the last couple years. They started out with 30, 40, maybe 50 people, and now they've got close to 200 members, I would say. But then there's a big crowd of people that are there, that maybe even act like members, they're, they give, they volunteer, but they're not. They haven't made a formal commitment to join or anything like that. And there's probably another 400 people, anywhere from 500 to 700 people could show up on a given Sunday, right? And so they're kind of wrestling with how to deal with it, like how to effectively meet the needs of those people, and like discipleship and all that kind of stuff. How do you do that? How do you get people to even want to do that? And so trying to figure out, programming for those folks, and like logistically how you handle that many people. And there's a lot of challenges with that, and they're still kind of wrestling with it. Whereas, like for me, I don't know, we grew up in or not grew up, but we came recently out of a real kind of no frills kind of
Saturated with scripture.
denomination, is a Calvary Chapel.
Oh, I remember the word now. It's sanctification.
Sanctification, yeah.
Instead
That's
of
another
Christology,
fancy
it's
word.
called sanctification.
Yeah, so small groups, we call them community groups, and that's pretty much what they are, is just community groups. Like, not a lot of them are doing like Bible study. Really, it's more just kind of a review of some sermon notes and stuff with some questions, get people talking, get people kind of doing life together, hanging out together and stuff like that. But it's not super deep in a lot of these groups or whatever. But that is one thing I was looking at, kind of the smaller kind of church groups or whatever. Francis Chan had a book recently called Letters to the Church or something, where he's kind of gone. Used to be this mega pastor or whatever, and they've kind of gone to this route where they're doing, like, I think the max number is 20 people in like a small group, where they get together and I don't know if they video stream, like simulcast service, but then each group has their own kind of like pastor and like worship person, and like, but basically it's like a smaller version where you can actually get to know people and like, pray with people and like study the Bible with people and all that in a smaller setting. And then the idea is, once it gets to about 20 people, if there's more, you try to divide off, and like, then those groups are kind of doing that. But trying to figure out how to do that. I think one thing we see where we're at is a lot of people don't have, like, it's not a priority for them. He says Home Depot will allow 120 people. Morning service starts at 9. But it's tough, like trying to get, like, people are busy. It's difficult, schedules and things like that. But
are you too?
I think the challenge is getting people just to
Getting people to commit.
yeah. I think that's the direction we're kind of going in, where basically there be a core group of people that are like trained to facilitate, a larger group type deal, and actually follow up on people and do, teaching and stuff like that, and then kind of see how it plays out. But I think the big challenge right now is that people are used to, I guess, what you would call consumer Christianity. They're used to having their needs met, and like they want to hear a good message, and they want to be comfortable, and they want to hear good worship, where it's like a going like to a rock concert, you know, and so a lot of these bigger places are trying to model stuff on like secular things where they're setting it up like a rock concert. You know, they got their fog machine.
It's all about the experience.
Yeah, that's the like it is at the Presbyterian church. A lot of these older congregations where it's more high church and more procedural, you know, where you could pretty much script it. That's cool, Frank, man. He says he's a Fuel Corps member, which is kind of a team lead or ministry person at the church.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, for me, I think it's prayer and Bible study and getting people like connected to the Lord Himself, like where they can have a real life, like personal relationship with God through Christ. Like they can know the Lord personally and like spend time, you know, studying the Word, reading through passages and stuff, and they just kind of it comes alive. It is kind of awkward, man. If you know, um, yeah, I could mention it to Ken and see. He's a pretty high energy guy, just a real. I'm still getting to know him. So I mean, they're still getting to know us. I mean, we've only been there for a little over a year now, and and it's yeah, and that's a challenge too. There's some places where you know the teaching isn't that good, or yeah. It is tough to sit still, you know, like just to take the time personally to read and study and pray and actually take the time to listen. It's kind of real interesting when you study out. What was that? When you study out prayer and stuff like that, and you look up the word for that, I think the word is it prosukame or something? I forget the Greek translate. I think it's prosukame or something. Anyway, what it means is exchanging wishes, and so there's the aspect of where you're coming to the Lord and you're laying your stuff before you come to the Lord, and you're communicating things to Him in prayer. But the other aspect of it then is as you're laying your burdens down or laying your things before Him or giving Him praise or whatever it might be, He then, there's an aspect of it where you wait to receive. Like you come into prayer expectantly, so it's exchanging wishes with God, where you're communicating things that are on your heart, and then it's an opportunity for Him to communicate what's on His heart for you. And the challenge with that is that a lot of times that second part, we completely miss that. We're so caught up in like laying our stuff down, or so caught up in ourselves being self-centered, that we don't take the time to listen, and we don't expect to hear anything back. Like we're just going through the motions of casting all this stuff out there, or whatnot, but we don't wait to receive, and wait with the Lord, through His Word, just kind of meditating. And that's part of, like, I guess, Christian meditation too, is there's this element where you're kind of maybe meditating and thinking on like a passage or whatnot, and then it gives the Lord an opportunity to speak or reveal, the meaning or what He's wanting to do. So I think that, and then just like personal study, and that, like, really having, like, that you really can trust the Lord, you can trust Christ, and you can, like, God is real, He does care, and like He does reveal Himself, and He's speaking all the time. There's things He wants to show us, but a lot of times we're not listening, or we're not taking the time to wait with Him and just rest, and allow Him to kind of renew us and stuff like that. So I know it's tough. I mean, everybody comes from different experience, Hey, Stone, how long you been on, man? I got Ruthie with me, but we're being careful. I don't have the camera on her. She's just sitting here listening to me, and every once in a while we'll chime in.
Am I not allowed to be in the video?
Nah.
How many people are watching?
That's at least 3. Stone says hi, Ruth.
Hi.
Yeah, we've been talking about all kinds of stuff. We're talking about gardening and just kind of random stuff, and like how things we've been doing today. And then we kind of wandered into spiritual things again. I've been thinking about, and I was talking to my wife a little bit about it, but we thought about maybe doing like an online. Yeah. Well, we got the garden in today. There you go. And I got a lot of plants left over. So if you want anything, we could probably make it happen. Anyway, I was talking to my wife. We thought about whether it's a part of this channel, or if I start a whole new channel and do a maybe a through the Bible study, where we just kind of go through we're thinking about maybe doing that. Yeah, 'cause there's a lot there. I mean, yeah, maybe I will do a separate channel because I got. I don't think you guys can hear it in the background. Ruthie can hear it, but there's a pond that's behind us that the neighbors got, one of those little decorative ponds, and they've got the frogs are singing back there right now, kind of doing their. Yeah, we got frogs or toads. It's probably toads.
There's a lot of them.
You can hear them? Yeah, that's what those are. And there's one thing that's been kind of cool out at the garden. They found, I don't know what, probably 4 or 5 toads.
Just today.
Yeah, just today, which is cool because they'll eat a lot of bugs. I don't mind having them in the garden. I'll have to take you guys over there tomorrow. I'll try to make a video, a better video than what we did today. Today it was kind of.
Well, like the skill's not good enough.
I don't know. We were all hot and tired.
Yeah. It was like 85 degrees out.
Yeah.
No sun. I mean, yes, a lot of sun. What am I talking about?
Yeah, I was telling him earlier we were out there from like, I don't know,
10.
11. No, we didn't get out there till about 11 once we loaded the van and stuff. We got there from 11 and we left about 6. Something like that. So we were out there right at the
Heat of
the
the
hottest
day.
part of the day, you know, from about 12 to 3. Oh, that's cool. Did you pick up any exotic animals?
Yeah, the humidity was like 67% today.
Yeah, what made today tough was the humidity. Ruthie was telling, just mentioned it. The air was thick. You
67%.
Yeah, it made. We had to make sure we were drinking water.
Are you reading comments?
Yeah,
You're just like,
they're chatting in here.
Because sometimes it'll just be silent and you'll just be looking at the camera and I'll be like, is my dad like, he's just like looking at the camera being live, like trying to get those views, like watch minutes so you get
No.
monetized. You just need a couple more thousand, don't you?
No, I probably got it now. Ruthie's asking me about monetization again.
He wants to get his channel monetized so that he earns money. Is that how you do it? Like you earn money?
You can. It depends. Sounds like Stone's going on a road trip.
Where?
Frank says that I'm starting to get dementia. It's fine. Shoot. Yeah, I was telling them, we were chatting earlier about it, but I guess one of the criteria is you could have. Yeah, they'll move the goalpost again once I hit it, but you have to have, I think it's 4,000 hours of watch time in a year. Is it
I
240,000?
think it was 240,000, right?
240,000 minutes. I think that comes out to about 4,000 hours, like in a rolling year. And since quarantine began, like the channel spiked, like doubled in terms of, for whatever reason. I told Frank I think it's because he found my channel again and brought a bunch of people with him. But what was that? Is that a cicada? Step on it.
Oh, it's a weird bug.
That is a weird bug.
I'm actually probably gonna go inside.
All right, child. I'll be coming in too here in a little bit.
Bye, y'all.
Ruthie says bye. So yeah, anyway, I was looking at the analytics for fun and all that, and I was like, I don't know, 900 minutes away from hitting that threshold or whatever. Man, there's some like crazy big bugs, like beetles and stuff. Yeah, it must be June bugs. Yeah, maybe you guys can help me with some clickbait. And then, like I said, we'll do the camera view thing where, like, you know, every once in a while the stuff will start shaking, or we turn the camera real quick, get a different angle. Try to keep everybody engaged. Man, they are buzzing all around me, man. Oh, shoot. That's awesome, Stone. You guys going on a trip, man. I know Jen loves to travel, and I'm more of a homebody. Like, I could be, like, perfectly fine just hanging out here doing stuff. Could always, you know, find stuff to do, whereas she gets cabin fever and is just, we gotta mix it up, gotta go somewhere, gotta do something. I offered to fly her out to San Diego. Her best friend lives out there, and I actually did that once. Yeah, I flew her out to San Diego. I took a week off work and watched all the kids. This probably, it was probably about 10 years ago. But she was able to go out and spend a whole week out there, and they really treated her right. I guess her friend, they don't have kids, and her husband's like a software engineer or something. Like, he was making pretty good money, and so they kind of treated her like a queen. I mean, she got to stay there, and they flew to like Catalina Island because he's got his pilot's license and stuff, and they just went a lot of different places. You know, meanwhile I was at home with all the kids, and we had a lot of fun too. I mean, it was not a problem for me. So anyway, we may at some point do a trip, maybe when all this COVID stuff blows over and we've got some other things um, paid down and stuff. Though the other thing she's wanting right now is a new vehicle. Getting like a minivan, or I may get a Suburban. Tom's been talking to me about getting a Suburban, trading in the van, get rid of the van and get a Suburban that could last, quite a while. Yeah, that would be kind of fun to do Kings Island sometime with you, Tom. Maybe I can get Samuel to come along, where you and Wesley and me and Sam, or maybe me and Stone. Yeah. We'll see. Well, I'm getting the look from my significant other, because I guess they're getting everybody, my little kids, ready for bed. So I should probably get in or call it a night and go in. But it's been fun chatting with you guys. We'll have to chat again soon. Like I said, maybe I'll make a video of the big garden tomorrow and actually like take the time to edit it and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you guys take care. Maybe I'll catch you tomorrow night. We'll see how the evening goes. Maybe I'll hang out on the back deck again. So we'll catch you guys later.